What's up? Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome back to Behind the Layers podcast. My name is Cara Christensen. I am a trainer, nutritionist, a mother of three, and a life coach to all around. Thank you so much for joining me on this second episode of Behind the Layers, where we are going to dive into whether or not the eating for your blood type and eating for your body type is in fact something that you should take into consideration. So I know there are many books and many studies that seem to be out there on that. So we are here to bust up bust up those statistics and that myth, and let's just see if that is in fact something that um, we should hold near and dear to us. Hi, Bo. Hi, good to see you. I'm back. Okay, so today what I'm going to do is actually open up this guy that I really love listening to. His name is Dr. Berg, and he has something that I just came across the other day that kind of goes over these things that I've been weighing in my mind too, because it is definitely something that I've wondered myself, and there are so many studies in this day and age. You can't really tell what's what. Is it real? Is it not? Is the study worthwhile? So here's what I am going to do. I am going to go ahead and play that for you guys, and we can see that together. And you guys can chime in and tell me what you think. Let's see. What's up, Bo? I hope you had a good night, my friend. I am going to go over here and hit play on this.
Question relating to the blood type diet versus the body type diet. What's the difference?
Can you guys hear that okay?
Now, there's a book sold
me
10
know
million
in
copies.
comments.
Eat right
You
for
guys
your
can
blood
chime
type.
in. I can
Okay.
see.
And on the outside, it looks really legitimate. It looks scientific. It looks like there's a technology to it because they're breaking down 4 different diets based on your blood type. Type A, where you're doing more vegan meals, plant-based. Type B, blood, where you're doing plant-based plus some meats, but without chicken or pork, avoiding wheat and corn. Okay. Type AB, you're doing seafood, tofu, dairy, beans. Type O, higher protein, some fruit, paleo. Okay. So basically, the technology is all based on your blood type. But if you look at the research, there isn't very much research. It's actually very weak, if any, research. And the author also throws in some data about your personality too being affected by the blood type, which you lost me right there, because there's no way that your blood type is going to affect your personality, your emotional level, your behavior. It's not going to do that. So despite selling 10 million copies, obviously some people got some really good results, or they wouldn't have kept buying this book. It wouldn't have spread. But if you kind of look at these diets, you're cutting out a lot of junk food. You're cutting out a lot of foods that make you fat. So that's probably why it works for some people. So
that's true.
It's not that people don't get some results on that. Okay, so that's my opinion on the blood type diet. Okay, so now let's talk about the science behind body types. Okay, so what I observed is that you notice that if you look around, you have different shapes out there, right? And there's 4 primary shapes.
With that?
You have people that hold weight in the.
So I am a type O blood type, and I do gravitate towards meat, but I also feel like the nutrients and the proteins that you get in meat is so different than what you can get in any other type of bean or plant or supplement. So I do wonder if anybody resonated with those particular blood types and those eating styles for the blood type, if you do feel that you do gravitate towards that more. So even though there's not a heavy amount of studies on it, I feel like it could be something to that. So let me know. Let me know what you think. I'm going to continue playing this because this is very interesting.
Stomach, and then some people that actually have a protruding belly, people that gain weight in the hips, Some people that gain weight all over, not in any one location. So I was very curious about why that is. So what I did was I got my hands on nearly every single book on endocrinology that has been written, okay? And I found, like for example, when you have high cortisol, you can see the picture of the person's belly, where the fat goes, right?
Right.
So
True.
you can see a female here. There's a picture of someone that has too much cortisol. You can see this body shape. Found that interesting. And if you look at someone with liver damage, they can get this condition called ascites, which is fluid that builds up in a sac around the gut, and so they have a pot belly. A lot of people have this. And then you can get a fatty liver, which then spills over and it can give you visceral fat. So that can also come from the liver. And then I do know that estrogen dominance will actually put fat around the hips and the thighs, okay? If you have low estrogen, you don't accumulate fat in that location. Then we have the thyroid, and if the thyroid becomes sluggish, then you gain weight. Where? All over. So there's various pictures of the shape that someone would go into if they had a problem with this gland, okay? So then I researched what type of foods would improve the liver function. What type of foods would help lower cortisol? What type of foods are anti-estrogenic?
Now, this is going to be interesting. This is where I say, get out your notepads and write these things down, because these are the types of foods that you want to start incorporating into your diet, because it's going to lower all of those things that he just spoke about. And he's devoted his entire adult life into studying the body, what makes you gain weight here or there in different body types, different blood types. He even talks about keto and intermittent fasting for people that don't have gallbladders or thyroids that have been removed. So, and how to get all of that stuff in check before you even take advice from a doctor that says you need to have your thyroid removed or your gallbladder removed, unless it's a very severe case and you have so much trouble sticking to a ketogenic or a fasting routine. So let's just see what he has to say here. These are the foods that are going to lower all of those things that he just talked about, of where you're carrying weight in your belly, on your hips and your thighs, and yeah, all the ailments.
And what type of foods are really good for the thyroid? Developing some type of technology to support these shapes.
Thanks,
Okay?
Joe. Thanks for letting me know.
Now, that was in the first book. Here's the second book right here. It's called the New Body Type Guide, which is an upgrade from the 7 Principles of Fat Burning. Okay? And I made some significant, important changes that I want to talk about. So what I was missing in my first book was the foundational eating plan that would address one of the biggest problems out there, which is high levels of insulin or insulin resistance. So I needed some type of basic reference. So what we did is we used the definition of the word food, okay? And I want to read this to you. Food is that which is eaten to sustain life, provide energy, and promote the growth and repair of tissues. And the derivation of the word food is nourishment, which comes from providing nutrients to the body, okay? So basically we need food to provide energy and nutrients. Okay, so let's first talk about fuel. Okay, there's 2 types of fuel. You can run the body on ketones or glucose. Okay, we already know the person has been running on glucose their whole life. But here's the thing: if you were breastfed, you started out in ketosis. Breastfeeding is a natural thing for us to start out on, and when an infant is fed breast milk, they go right into ketosis. So our bodies really were meant to run on ketones, not glucose. And that's why we have such a huge reserve of fat to live off of. And we
A little, probably pushing it too far question I would like to ask is, I wonder if, we did still have access to drinking breast milk. There are some women who just really produce milk like cows, like so much milk. And I wonder if we did start drinking that, if it would be a quicker way to get our bodies into ketosis and get started on reducing that fat level for people that are super obese. Interesting question, right?
have such a small amount of stored glucose, okay, as glycogen. Just simply because our bodies are not designed to, keep eating every hour and a half. And to be able to then combine intermittent fasting with ketosis, now we're kind of mimicking what our bodies are really designed to do, not consume meals every hour and a half. It's very unnatural. You create a lot of problems when you do that. So we have the providing energy from ketosis part, but
Now hold on. Let me just back that up. So when I was competing, and anybody that's in the IFBB or NPC or any of those competition worlds on stage, for our athlete team, we were eating every 2 hours, but we were also working out, 2, 3 times a day, intense workouts. So I think what he's talking about for all of the competitors that are joining me on my podcast today, yes, what he's saying is definitely cater towards the average Joe that's not going to be spending all that time in the gym and dedicating their every moment to their physique. So this is catered to the average person that may or may not even work out at all. So yes, our body is not built to do that type of eating regime.
But then what we want to do is we want to make sure that that eating plan has all of the required nutrients. And that's why we kind of enhanced a traditional keto plan and made a healthy version of it. We call it healthy ketosis, okay? So healthy ketosis and intermittent fasting is the basic plan that everyone starts on. And then in 2 weeks, we will tweak that plan with your specific body type. Okay, this is the icing on the cake. Or maybe I shouldn't talk about icing on the cake. But if you have a liver problem, then maybe we can support the liver with certain types of nutrients or foods. Same thing with the adrenal, same thing with the ovary. Okay, so I hope that cleared up the difference between body types and blood types. So I want to
So, if you haven't taken the quiz before, there is a quiz, and I can probably put it up on this. I'll put it up in the comments for this. There is a quiz you can take that will explain to you what your body type is. A lot of people don't know what their body type is. So, there is a quiz to learn that, and there is a specific regime to follow for your specific body type to get you the biggest results, because what might work for one person might not work for the other person. But in regards to fasting, when you're doing the intermittent fasting and the keto, it's very rare that it's not working for all, because all you're doing is a calorie deficit. You're giving your body, it's logics, right? It's body logics. All you're doing is allowing your body to spend more time working on those things that it needs to work on, distributing the fat, using the fat for fuel, and doing the things that it needs to do without you putting more for it to do, more work on the table, as to put it in different terms. So I definitely feel like, you know, learning your body type is going to be something positive for you regardless. Most people don't know anything about that, but it's interesting what he said about the blood types. So if you guys didn't catch that, let me just back it up to the blood type real quick. So the blood types are what he's going over right now, which I have been very interested in, and I've been faulty too of not faulty so much as, if there's studies out there, and there are people that are specialists saying that these things are factual and they work, I'm an advocate for at least giving it a go. And it would kind of make sense to eating to your blood type, but he's kind of going over that studies right now. Some people don't even know their blood type. So next time you go to the doctor, make sure you find out what your blood type is. But here's a
the
quick little
outside, it
recap
looks
right here.
really legitimate. It looks scientific. It looks like there's a
Talking
technology
about the
to
blood
it because
type,
they're breaking down
about
4 different diets based on your
eating for
blood
your
type.
blood type and body.
Type A, where you're doing more
Here we go.
vegan meals, plant-based. Type B, blood, where you're doing plant-based plus some meats, but without chicken or pork, avoiding wheat and corn. Okay. Type AB, you're doing seafood, tofu, dairy, beans. Oh, higher protein. Okay. So basically,
Okay.
the technology is all based on your blood type. But if you look at the research, there isn't very much research. It's actually very weak, if any, research. And
Even though this is what he's saying, a top selling book, 5 million copies, number one bestseller, is teaching people how to eat for the blood type. So, it gives you reason to take pause and see, well, maybe that's not going to do much justice. This man, Dr. Berg, is so big on eating intermittent fasting in windows, and also eating, in that case, intermittent fasting is done by ages too. So, what a 20-year-old or a teenager in intermittent fasting trying to lose some weight won't be the same as a 40 plus or 50 plus in intermittent fasting that are trying to lose the same weight. So, your body does change over the years, unfortunately. But even from my 20s to my 30s, I it was such a big difference. I was still eating whatever I wanted in my 20s, and then 30s, I'm kinda eating the same, but now I'm starting to change a little bit. So, that is definitely an eye opener. I'm sure a lot of you have also, um, been in the same realm in that regard. But, yeah, it's definitely an interesting progress of the way your body changes. I got an email from my doctor the other day about colonoscopy. I was like, "Oh, wait, what? Colonoscopy? That's for, like, older people." Age is just a number, right? It's just a number. But until you're falling into that realm, then you're like, "Whoa, what's happening? I don't understand it." Let me see I'm trying to remember where the places that you go to learn your body type, because it's just like a little quiz, and then you go, let's see, you find the quiz, you fill out the quiz, like a few questions, and then it tells you what your body type is. Your body type, let's go there. Let's see what this says.
Hey, what's up, you?
Okay, here it is.
Hey, Dr. Berg here. In this,
Okay, let me put this up.
hey,
This is the body type. So once you do learn your body type, This is this is kind of what you need to know about that. What you do with that information after you learn what your body type is. So here we go. Oops.
Hey, Dr. Berg here. In this video, I want to talk about the body types. I want to talk about how to differentiate certain body types. I want to talk about the cause, the underlying cause, and some important tips on each body type. So let's get right into the first. Number one is the adrenal body type. As you can see, there's a sagging belly. Now, that belly is fat coming from a hormone called cortisol. It is not necessarily diet related. It is stress related. And that's why when you go on a diet, sometimes it doesn't work until you deal with the stress part of it. And there are techniques to pull stress out of the body, but I just wanted to point that out. Adrenal cases have problems sleeping. They have problems with a lot of issues with stress responses, feeling calm, memory issues, craving for salts and chocolate. The list goes on and on and on. But they mainly have the sagging belly. And if you were to recommend important things, the most important thing is reducing stress and getting sleep. As far as dietarily, they would need to not go on a low protein diet. Why? Because the body is breaking down more protein. Instead, they should eat a little more protein with each meal, and they should also have enough vegetables to give them the potassium they need, because they are, if it's lots of stress, they'll be depleting the potassium reserve, and they need that potassium, okay, just to get the adrenals recharged. So those are some couple things with the adrenal. Now, and number two, we have the thyroid body type. Now, if you look at that type, you can see that the weight is all over, not in any one location. They're just big everywhere. But the thing you need to know is that if you're diagnosed with a thyroid problem, and the doctor says you have a thyroid problem and we just need to give you thyroid hormones, and many times you don't feel any change or lose the weight, then that is a secondary problem, not a primary problem. Because again, if someone diagnosed you with a problem and they give you that thing, it should solve the problem. Yeah. So if there's a secondary problem, you never get better. So what happens? What's a primary thyroid? A primary thyroid condition would usually come from too much estrogen, from having heavy periods, or from the environment. It could also come from a lack of digestive gallbladder release. So if your liver is not doing well and you don't have enough bile, B-I-L-E, that's a digestive juice that comes from the liver, then you can't convert T4 to T3. So you can't have those converting, activating hormones. In other words, 80% of that thyroid is controlled by the conversion from T4 to T3 through the liver and gallbladder. If there's a problem there, you won't get the conversion, and then you don't fix that problem, you never fix the thyroid. So we
Interesting. So I know several people that are on thyroid medicine that they got on thyroid medicine because the doctors saw the function of the thyroid um, not working well. So I'm wondering now, with all of the things I've been learning about from RFK with our food and the food health and in this country, and from Dr. Jordan Peterson, who's always talking about the way it affects your mental and your psyche, and the just overall the health and food drug administrations and how corrupt they are. I'm wondering if if doctors are more apt to just give you those band-aids and not focus on the real problem, which if you seems to me now learning this that if just because you have a thyroid problem, if you're put on those thyroid pills, you're not even get if you're not seeing the results, it could be your liver or your gallbladder. So in any event, any of those things, I know from this doctor from following him for quite some time, any of those things can be fixed by changing the way you eat, changing what you eat, the way you eat. So I hope that he's going to go into that for the body types, and I will post that up in the comments. What the link is to discovering what your body type is. So let's listen to the rest.
got a high estrogen issue. Secondly, we have a conversion issue from the liver and gallbladder. And thirdly, we could have a stress adrenal issue, which is right up number one, so bad to the point where, let's say you develop an autoimmune problem. That would be either Hashimoto's or Graves'. Again, these are just things to ask your doctor and talk about, because a lot of times they don't look beyond the actual hormone issue. So thyroid issues can even come from the adrenal, because most all autoimmune cases are stemmed from and caused from an adrenal, and that's why the treatment for all of them are adrenal hormones, cortisol, prednisone. That's what they use in autoimmune. It's a powerful anti-inflammatory. It also is intimately involved with your immune system. So anyway, I'm just giving you tips on what could cause potential thyroid issues. It could be a primary thyroid.
Interesting. So what he's saying is, even if you're going in and getting tested for your thyroid, and that's something that you feel that there is an issue, if they find that issue, then they might just put you on thyroid pills and that be that. But if you don't take the time to follow up with your doctor and tell them, hey, I'm on these pills and it seems to be a little bit working, but not really working that well. You're eating healthy, you're moving, you're exercising a little bit through the week. What's going on? Then I feel like actually having them test for the liver function and the gallbladder might be something that you have to initiate on your own, that not necessarily a doctor is going to dive into that for you. So good note
But
there.
typically, there's something that caused that. So we want to look deeper. People just don't one day end up with a thyroid issue. It's triggered by something.
Oh,
Okay,
well, I don't think so.
now, what
I
foods
like
should they
how
eat
I
if it's a
I like
thyroid?
his
It really
research.
depends on what caused it. If it's more of a gallbladder issue, they should eat foods that support the liver. If it's a more estrogen issue, they should eat foods to support balancing estrogen. So it really depends on, again, the source of it. Now, number three, this body type down here is the liver. This is mainly seen in men. It's a protruding belly.
Notice he's saying eat foods to change these things. So it's not go and get your estrogen blood type, or go get your blood work done so you can get on pills. He's saying eat food, eat the foods that will fix these things. God gave us all these beautiful plants and foods and animals and things that we have everything that we need. We don't need he didn't create, people to do to give us pills unless there is a chronic disease that you were born with. That it would be a different scenario. But if you put yourself in this situation because of the foods you've been eating for such a long time, not working out, and the things that you should be doing, moving more, not just sitting. We weren't meant to just sit at a desk and then go home and then sit some more. Like you're meant to move around and be active in some capacity. But this day and age, we're so apt to be a little bit more lazy and, sit around a lot more, especially if you have a job, you can't help it. Your job is sitting at a desk. I do like that they made those walking pads, but now that I'm an owner of a walking pad and learning to do walking while doing any other kind of work is actually very difficult, especially typing while you're walking. I mean, you have to be working with your left and right part of your brain at the same time while focusing and not falling off of that walking pad. So I like the concept of it, but it's not for everyone. And I get it. Like a lot of people are you're mentally drained when you're having 8, 10, 12 hours of mental work, and then where's the energy going to come from, right? Like to get you motivated to do a workout. So you just kind of have to just make yourself do it, because once you get started, once you put that right foot in front of the left and you get started, it's a game changer, because then you start to release those endorphins, you start to release that energy into your body and that adrenaline. So you kind of, in a way, pump yourself up when you're in a drained, just dead space. If you just get, like a lot of people will say, if I can just get to the gym, if I can just get there, then I can get started. But you just got to make yourself do that. If it's not at the gym, make sure when you're on your break at work, bring some sneakers with you, walk the stairs or walk outside around the building a few times. Like get out, get some vitamin D, get some sunlight, because you will feel so much better being under those halogen zombie lights all day. Like just get out, even if you work from home. Take a break from what you're doing when you have your break and get outside and get some vitamin D in and get a good workout in. Or you can watch any one of my at home workouts. I got from 4 minutes to up to 30 minutes, whatever your time frame is, and get a good workout in. And that way you can get your circulation going, release those good endorphins, feel good about your day, feel good about yourself. I mean, it's a win-win all the way around. But notice that all the things he's saying is not go in and get more pills for this situation. You should definitely start learning how to eat for your body type, or eat for the issue that you have. You have too much estrogen, or you have too much testosterone. Eating the right foods to bring those back in balance is always going to be a good idea, above putting a Band-Aid on it. Let's see what else he has to say.
It's a pot belly, but it can also happen in women as well. These cases do not want to consume alcohol and wine before they go to bed every night.
He was saying
It's a
about this.
pot belly. This body type down here is the liver. This is mainly seen in men. It's a protruding belly. It's a pot belly, but it can also happen in women as well. These cases do not want to consume alcohol and wine before they go to bed every night, because that alcohol destroys the liver. They also do not do well on heavy protein. So they do well being a vegetarian.
Okay.
With some small amount of protein,
Interesting.
but they need to increase their vegetables because that is the food.
So this is very interesting, because I was just talking about um, as I learned with learning about eating for your blood type is um, hunters and gatherers, the body types. He's talking about specifically body types, but I was learning this about blood types. Is there are people that are able to exist and thrive on just plants, but there are some people who are trying to put their body into a plant-based diet that really isn't going to respond properly, because there's not the meat, because your blood type or your body type, you're someone who requires meat to thrive and you know to really get into your best operational zone for your body. So Let's see what he has to say about this one. So this one, if you've got the rounded, all the way around, rounded belly, not the first one where he was showing a hanging belly, but this is an all the way around rounded belly. He's saying the best is to lower your protein and more
Food
vegetables.
that helps the liver. But again, with some small amount of protein, but they need to increase their vegetables because that is the food that helps the liver. But again, we want to find out the source of where that's coming from. So instead of treating a liver, let's just look at the eating and get the eating straightened out and support it that way. Okay, the next body type would be number 4, the ovary type. The ovary type holds weight more in the hips and a little pooch below the belly button. That type is more of an estrogen dominant case, and those cases need to support estrogen balance. Well, what would that be? Well, cruciferous vegetables are the key food to help balance estrogen. And also, in their food, they want to make sure that they're not consuming just...
That's what us ladies call the fupa. So that's interesting to learn that that's an estrogen issue. I do have some clients that have had that. I did not realize that was a thing, but now I know. But that's it's just like a little pooch that happens to be right there above the bikini line. And some people do have that, and I didn't realize that was.
commercial food that has hormones in it. They want hormone-free type foods, especially dairy and
Good
meats.
luck getting
Those
this.
are just some general tips on supporting your body type. I hope this helped you differentiate. There's a lot of videos I have that go into each individual body type, but I wanted to kind of show you all of them in one short video. I'll see you in the next video.
So yeah,
Hey,
that's
Dr. Berg here. In this video, I want
interesting. That's very, very interesting. So the area above the bikini line for a lot of females, and I can understand why more females in more of my female clients than men clients have had that pouch, and it's because of an estrogen, which would make sense. And most of the women have more of a issue with like saddlebags outside of the hips and bigger around the thighs than men. Most of the men would carry. So that's very interesting to learn that that's based on that's based on that. Let me pull this back up. Um, yes, that's what we're going. Yes, exactly. 1,000,000%. I feel like, yeah. Okay, what she's saying is that testing these out too with your own body and your own lifestyle is going to be something that you should just go with, like now we're in day 2 of the 15-day kickstart challenge. And since I'm weighing myself every day, I'm going through it with you guys. Remember, I talked about putting the weight on so I can show you how it will come off if you're sticking to the program. This program I've used for almost all of my clients, and no matter their blood type or their body type, it's always been effective. So, I mean, because it's pretty basic, and I know regarding how strict you are or what more I fine tune, but this is just an overall generalized plan to get started. That's why it's called the kickstart, because it's just kickstarting everything. It's resetting your biodome. It's getting all of that yuck out of your body, kind of just like a reset, how you like factory reset. So from there, if it's something that you wanted to stick to, we could fine tune it for your particular needs. But this is absolutely 100% a way to just get your body going, get your metabolism going right, get your pH balances all back in check, and just getting your body operating and moving at a better speed than what you originally had before you started it. But this is, I will make sure, yes, I definitely will put that link in. But let me just make a little note of that, the link to the body type, to your body type. So I'll have that in there later for you guys to take that quiz, and I would love to know, who I'm an endomorph. That's kind of how the the names are really funny. But let me see if I can pull that up over here. Let me type that in. There are so many different types, or 4 different types, but so many of you are different types, but this is still something that you're gonna benefit from this 15 days is what I said. How to exercise, see. This is, that's estrogen. Dr. Berg is his name. I know, he's so great. Just because of how he breaks it down and he shows things. He breaks down and shows you, it makes you lets you understand it the best way. Best way to lose. Where is he? 3 belly types. Here we go. What is?
I want to talk about the 3 bellies.
Okay. Let me get guys, because I know with my men out there, this is something that is going to be beneficial to you guys, because this is where you hold all of your weight, and for the most part, there are some rare scenarios where you are carrying weight around your hips and thighs, but that is clearly an estrogen. Your body's producing more estrogen, and also, you see some men that do have more fatty area on the chest. It looks like they might have, female breasts, but they are just from the extra estrogen that their bodies are producing. And probably now that learning, they're eating more foods that are catering to that estrogen, and might need to eat more foods that are going to decrease the estrogen in their body, since they are men, and most men don't want to carry around breasts that are like females.
Okay.
Of course,
if you look around
preference
and observe people, you're going to find out a lot of people have belly fat.
Okay.
But today we're going to differentiate 3 different types of belly fat. There are 3 different problems, and I wrote a book about this, and I talk about the 4 different bellies, but today we're going to combine 2 of those in one and
This
kind of
again is
talk
Dr.
about
Berg,
the actual underlying
BPHD.
causes, because that belly type is the same shape, but it's coming from 2 different causes. And so we have the sagging belly fat, okay? That is either a problem with too much insulin or too much cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone. The next belly is the protruded belly. You usually see this with the guy that's wearing the Speedo on the beach. He's thin, but he has this basketball pregnant stomach, okay? That is not fat. It is a liver problem. The liver is very, very damaged, and this person is leaking fluid from the liver into a sac in the abdomen. So it's a fluid-filled sac. If you take one part of the belly and you tap on the other part, you'll feel there'll be a little bit of a ripple effect.
Oh.
Okay, so that's number 2. Now the third belly is more of a lower pooch. You see this a lot in women, but it's also in men. It's more of a superficial fat. It's called subcutaneous fat. And it's not necessarily the fat that's around the organs. It's just superficial. And a lot of times it comes from too much estrogen. Okay, so let's first talk about the sagging belly. This is called visceral fat. Visceral fat is spill off from the liver. The liver is filling up with fluid and it has nowhere to go. So then it spills off around the organs, around the intestines, around the heart, around the pancreas. A lot of times the fat goes inside the organs as well. But this is more of a dangerous fat because it is obstructing the function of certain organs, especially the pancreas. And it is also releasing certain things that are increasing your inflammation, which then causes problems in the heart. It causes problems with insulin resistance. It creates problems in other organs. So this type of belly is usually coming from too much insulin, which is then triggered from too many carbohydrates. That's right. I know you're shocked, but too many carbs will increase insulin and put the fat right in your gut. Now, just because someone doesn't have belly fat doesn't mean they don't have visceral fat. There's a term called TOFI. That stands for thin on the outside, fat on the inside. So just because someone doesn't have a gut doesn't mean they don't have visceral fat. I just wanted to point that out. Now, I want to mention cortisol for a second. Cortisol is a stress hormone. What cortisol does is it indirectly increases insulin. So when you have a sagging belly, that effect is created by insulin, which is either coming from carbohydrates or stress from cortisol. So the cortisol makes your belly increase by triggering insulin because cortisol increases the production of glucose from non-carbohydrate sources. So in other words, it'll take your protein, it'll take your fat and turn it into glucose, which then triggers insulin. So when you go through stress, it will increase your blood glucose from other things, not carbs. So stress and sugar create the same effect. Belly fat and many other problems. And the term for that is called gluconeogenesis, okay? The creation of new sugar. Now, as far as getting rid of this type of belly, do you think exercise would be a significant thing to focus on? The answer is no. Diet. You're not going to see much results with exercise. Why? Because exercise does not decrease insulin in a significant way. The majority of the results are going to be from keeping your carbs low from your diet.
Right.
Now, exercise will help reduce stress, but it's not going to be a significant factor. Now, if your problem is stress, there's a lot of things you can do. I created some videos down below if you're new to my channel because so many people are going through stress, and I have some really great tips on that. But I will say as a side note, probably the biggest source of stress comes from other people. So there are certain personality types that can keep a person under constant stress. And unless they deal with that, man, there's going to be just a difficult time getting rid of belly fat. And the other point is sleep. If you can fix your sleep, you can greatly fix your stress. All right, let's shift to the protruding belly. This is a liver problem, usually cirrhosis, advanced liver disease. And the problem is this has been going for a long time. When you start generating fluid in your abdomen, your liver is pretty messed up. And the chances of you reversing it are pretty slim unless you catch it at some earlier stage and completely change your lifestyle. Things in the future, the prognosis is not very good for this body type. I mean, think about it. You have the liver that is so dysfunctional that is leaking fluid into a sac around your abdomen, and you have to go to the hospital every 14 days to get it drained out. Not a good situation. Now, if I was in that situation and someone were to give me some advice, I would radically 100% get on board and start changing my lifestyle. So it really depends on the person and how disciplined they are. Unfortunately, a lot of these cases with ascites is...
I agree. I think what he's saying, Bo, is that I raised the brow on that too, but I think what he's trying to say is that that alone is not going to fix this particular situation. Just working out alone, you can't still eat all the things that are making your gut fill with the liver leakage like that. You can't just fix it with exercise. You have to make a lifestyle change with what you're putting into your body. And I feel like if it's something that can be drained, like he's saying, which sounds terrible, but if it's something that can be drained, then I feel like you have a new lease on life that you can now make that lifestyle change, is how I'm hearing it, make that lifestyle change, and then you won't have that issue. So, I mean, gosh, I can't imagine that any of that feels great. But if you are just working out and then you're not, and then you're going and still eating the same way, I think is kind of what he was alluding to. That would be my educated guess on that.
Tied with alcoholics, and they have a very difficult time giving up alcohol. But number one, you're going to have to figure out what's triggering this, and
let me go back to where
get on board and start changing my lifestyle. So it really depends on the person and how disciplined they are.
Words in specific. Changing the lifestyle. You're not changing. I don't like to use the word diet because diet sounds like a fad and it's something you can go in and out of. You have to change your lifestyle. You have to change the way you look at things. And the biggest thing that actually really opened my eyes and changing when our daughter was going through cancer and we just kind of went off the rails and we're trying to self-medicate with food and putting all that weight on. The quickest way, well, first we did um, the what is it? The liquid diet, what is the juicing? We did juicing. So we did a 3-day juice and then a 5-day juice. And then at the point where you're drinking so many juices in that juice cleanse that it gets kind of just redundant and you get over it. So that's when we started just kind of we would skip some juices and just fasting. And then I learned more about the fasting through this man, Dr. Berg, and really that is such an easier way to get in the swing of things and not be just boggling your body down with food all the time unless you're just vigorously working out, which most people are not doing that every single day all the time. So the intermittent, and we'll do a whole topic on that. We'll do a whole podcast on the intermittent fasting because it's so vast and there's so many layers to it. But it really is a game changer, and that is a lifestyle change. And you have to change the lifestyle. You can't, especially if you have a leaky gut like that, you can't just you don't want to go in and get your gut drained every 14 days. Like that's not a life. That's no life. So hopefully I didn't back this up too much. Okay, going back to the change. The change.
So it really depends on the person and how disciplined they are. Unfortunately, a lot of these cases with ascites is tied with alcoholics, and they have a very difficult time giving up alcohol. But number one, you're going to have to figure out what's triggering this and
you didn't even
stop that bad habit.
Changed your lifestyle.
Vitamin E in the form of tocotrienols, okay, is very, very beneficial for cirrhosis, which is fibrosis, which is like scar tissue in your liver. And so if you start taking about 300 milligrams of tocotrienols twice or 3 times a day, that would be a very smart thing. That can actually reduce the formation of fibrosis and maybe even reverse some of that.
Interesting.
The other types of foods that you need to focus on are food twice or 3 times a day. Very, very beneficial for cirrhosis, which is fibrosis, which is like scar tissue in your liver.
Anybody have cirrhosis?
Is very, very beneficial for.
That's something that also is able to get in check from just changing the lifestyle, doing the intermittent fasting. And like I'm always talking about the apple cider vinegar drink, even drinking, I know it sounds gross and I do have some videos on doing that, but drinking the extra virgin olive oil at night when you get up in the morning, just kind of resetting your biodome. But at night is specifically because it helps, especially if you're a late night snacker. If you either one of those, if you drink the apple cider vinegar, tablespoon and 8 ounces, you could put lemon in it, or drink that cocktail down, or drinking the tablespoon of olive oil, which sounds gross, but it really does curb your hunger. It kind of settles everything in your stomach and kind of sets it back to zero. So it really is something really good. But I'm going to write this down because I do know some of my clients are suffering from cirrhosis. So this is interesting.
Or cirrhosis, which is fibrosis, which is like scar tissue in your liver. And so if you start taking about
what did he say?
300 milligrams of tocotrienols twice or 3 times a day, that would be a very smart thing. That can actually reduce the formation of fibrosis and maybe even reverse some of that.
Tocotrienols at
the other types of foods that you need to focus on are foods for the liver. That would be cruciferous vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
Moderate to low amount of protein. Not extremely low, but you don't want to go high protein because liver is damaged and the person has lost a lot of liver function to metabolize that protein. So when you overload a damaged liver with too much protein, you don't help the situation. All right, the next thing you want to focus on is your microbiome. Your microbes in your gut actually make a secondary type of bile salt that can actually take the pressure off your liver and help the liver greatly. There's another remedy that I would recommend if I personally had cirrhosis or late stage liver disease. It's called TUDCA. It's a type of bile salt that's really.
So if you do know anybody that is suffering from that, maybe they don't even know that, but now you know what to look for, which is like one of those almost like a pregnant belly. It's not fatty, it's not squishy, it doesn't have rolls. It's a belly that just starts from the top and goes around, or just a pooch belly, but it's tight. Those are the signs of this particular thing, which is a liver dysfunction. So he's saying that if you're taking more vitamin E, and then whatever this, I can write that down, tutka, that is going to help tremendously. If you know anybody that has
Really
this
good for the
dysfunction.
liver. I just would recommend it if I was trying to deal with this advanced liver problem. Now, would exercise help? Very, very insignificant effect from exercise. You're going to have to focus mainly on your eating and avoiding certain things. All right, so now let's talk about the superficial fat, the subcutaneous fat, which, by the way, is not very dangerous. A lot of people have it, and exercise would be very, very beneficial in addition to cutting your carbs and doing intermittent fasting. I will say, though, it does take a long time to get rid of that last bit of belly fat. But if you increase the amount of fasting that you do and you follow these next recommendations, I think you can speed it up. But many times the person is estrogen dominant. Okay, so we don't want to increase too much estrogen because estrogen increases the superficial fat around the body, especially in the hips, the thighs, and the buttocks. So we want to lower estrogen. How do we
I don't
do
mind
that?
it being
We
in the
avoid
buttocks.
soy products. We avoid things with
Okay.
pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, and we consume more organic
Oh,
foods.
right. Well, that's
We
the
avoid
problem right there, is
dairy,
avoiding
which
the
by
foods with
avoid
pesticides.
soy products. We avoid things with pesticides, herbicides, fungicides.
So sadly, I know, Bo, you don't believe in what RFK says, but he literally has dedicated his whole life to learning and studying all of this right here. Is like the farmlands, what's in the soil's pH level, what's damaging in the soils, if the soil is bad, how do you think our fruits and vegetables are growing? So that's kind of like the levels that we're at right now, is such a high percentage of pesticides in all of the fruits, even the organic fruits and vegetables. And that's where this gets tricky, that even if you think you're eating healthy, the fruits and vegetables that you eat are so filled with so many different types of pesticides that it's really hard to get away from. I mean, where do you turn other than growing your own vegetables? But not everybody knows how to do that, can do that, so has the time to dedicate to doing that. So, that's where it gets a little bit tricky in our day and age. Now, maybe 50 years ago when there weren't so many pesticides in the soils, but what I guess I believe in for RFK coming to the table, and the new administration, is him trying to put a cap on the pesticides that go into the soil, onto these fruits and vegetables, and getting into the soil, trying to figure out a way to make that healthier. So, I mean, it can only be beneficial, whether you believe in who he is or not. It's his research, it's impeccable, and I feel like it can only improve our way of life and our health if we start having more restrictions on what these farmers can put on top of their fruits and vegetables, or what they're putting it post post pick, after they're already picked out of the farms and the fields, what other people are putting on it to preserve it a little bit longer. Formaldehyde, I know, is not something that we should be consuming, but we consume all the time in our fruits and vegetables, unless you wash it tremendously before you eat it. So I know a lot of people don't do that. I didn't used to do that because it would come saying, pre-washed or whatever, but I guess it's not really pre-washed if they're still doing the tests on the pre-washed stuff and still finding the pesticides all over it. So, and within it. I mean, you can't like rinse it out from the inside. So you're kind of screwed in that point. But let's just see what he's talking about here.
And we consume more organic foods. We avoid dairy, which, by the way, can greatly increase your estrogen. We want to avoid plastics. Yeah, that's right. Plastics are in your food. The average person in the US consumes the amount of plastic that equals the size of a credit card. So I've done a video on that. Check it out down below if you haven't seen it. And most of the estrogen in our body actually comes from testosterone. So there's a certain enzyme called aromatase that converts testosterone to estrogen. And when you have too much of that enzyme, you make too much estrogen. And so you can do a natural aromatase inhibitor to lessen the production of estrogen. And take a wild guess what foods would be good for that. Cruciferous vegetables. And then there's a concentrated cruciferous product called DIM. That would be a very good thing to take as well. And lastly, omega-3 helps to inhibit that enzyme, lessening the amount of excess estrogen. So there you have it, the three bellies. So now what you need is the exact plan of what to eat. I created that in this very easy to follow step-by-step playlist. Check it out right here. Hi guys, listen, I
Okay,
have
so
2,500 videos.
I did. He does. He has a lot of videos, you guys. I literally have probably watched half of those because he is so good at explaining and breaking down everything. As you can see, he's very informative. Why? So tell me about that, Bo. Explain to me why you feel so strongly about him. Um, I feel like he's when you watch him talk about his findings and what he's been all of his research and stuff he's done on studying the soils and studying our farmlands in this country. And if you watch to any length of his studies, going way back in his findings, I find it very enriching to learn about what's going on in our food, even with the organics. I mean, there's nothing you can do other than growing your own food, but even with the organics, you can't even fully trust in that, which is like super sad. But yeah, it's interesting what he's saying about the diet plan, because I know he's going to go into keto and intermittent fasting is what he's huge on. But yeah, the cruciferous. I At first I never knew what the cruciferous vegetables, what he meant by that. But there's like nightshade vegetables. It's a whole nother thing. Believe it. Oh, oh, I didn't know we were. Was it an argument to discuss things, Bo? We're just having a conversation. I didn't know we were in an argument. I was just asking you what you didn't believe. So that's kind of like a back and forth banter, right? That's kind of what a conversation is built around is you say how you feel about something and I say how I feel, and hopefully we can agree on something or we agree to disagree. But either way, I don't feel like an argument has to ensue from, just having a conversation. I genuinely want to know why you don't believe in the stuff that he has to say. Going back over here, because this is something I feel like is going to be very beneficial. I'm introducing you guys to Dr. Berg because he has literally dedicated his life to helping people like across the globe getting their life back in check without surgery. They're either like borderline diabetic or they're facing going into surgery for this thing or another. You got heart disease, you got liver disease, you got all of these things, and he is giving you the tools that you need to fix it on your own without going into any like life altering surgeries, without doing anything other than dedicating your time and your focus and changing your lifestyle into focusing on the right foods you're going to put in. Exercise is definitely something that can help you with your stress levels, with the cortisol release in your body, but it is not everything. There's a reason that it's an 80-20, right? 80% of what you put in your mouth is what's going to cater to how your body functions, 20%. So that's why he does keep referring and saying back to, okay, so 20% of this, I mean, it does. Exercise can help, but it's very minuscule when you think about the numbers of 80-20. So 80% is what you put in your mouth. So learning the tools that you can use by just with the food you put in your mouth or don't put in your mouth is a huge benefit because it'll keep you from getting on those pills. And once you get on those pills, those start damaging all other sorts of things. And then sometimes you need a pill for that pill. So this is just giving you the tools to, helping you live your best life from the inside out, literally, and changing the biodome and the